There is a strange sickness that comes from living in our time, a profound vertigo. You feel it when you open your phone in the morning. You feel it when you watch the news. You feel it in the gap between what you were told the world would be and what it actually is. We are, by every measurable metric, the most advanced civilization in human history. We have conquered diseases that once wiped out entire populations. We have split the atom. We have walked on the moon. We have built a network of instantaneous global communication that would seem like pure magic to anyone born even 100 years ago. We are told constantly that we are living in the best time to be alive, that humanity is on an upward trajectory, that progress is inevitable, and yet, when you look around, something feels deeply, fundamentally wrong. You see new wars that look exactly like old wars. You see the same tribal hatreds dressed in new language. You see demagogues rising on waves of fear that your grandparents thought they had defeated forever. You see a culture fragmenting, people losing the ability to agree on what is even real. You were promised a shining future. You got a recurring nightmare. This feeling has a name. It is the feeling of living inside a collapsing myth, the myth of progress. And once you see that it is a myth, once you understand what is actually happening, everything changes. The myth of progress is not just an idea. It is the operating system of modern life. It is the invisible assumption underneath everything we do. It is baked into our economics, our politics, our personal goals. It is the promise whispered by parents, teachers, politicians. Things will get better. Humanity is improving. The future will be superior to the past. Work hard now, sacrifice now, and you will be rewarded later. The arc of history bends toward justice. We are all climbing the same mountain together. This idea feels so natural, so obvious, that most people never question it. But for the vast majority of human history, nobody believed this. The myth of progress is a recent invention, a radical modern departure from how humans have always understood time. The ancients did not see history as a line moving from darkness toward light. They saw it as a circle, a wheel. The Hindus called it the Yuga cycle, a cosmic rotation moving from a golden age of truth and purity down through progressively darker ages until reaching the Kali Yuga, our current age of moral collapse and spiritual decay. Then the cycle resets and begins again. The ancient Greeks believed in the Great Year, a vast cosmic cycle at the end of which the stars would return to their original positions and the entire drama of human civilization would replay itself, note for note, forever. For them, there was no progress. There was only the pattern, the eternal return of the same. And then something changed. In the 18th and 19th centuries, during the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution, Western civilization invented a new story, a story that said, we are different, we have broken the cycle, we have science now, we have reason, we have democracy, we are climbing out of the darkness and we will never fall back. This was the birth of the myth of progress. For a while, it seemed to work. Technology advanced, literacy spread, living standards rose, the myth seemed true. And then came the 20th century, and the myth started to crack. All that progress, all that science, all that technology, it did not make us more civilized. It made us more efficient at destroying each other. World War I killed 17 million people using industrial methods of slaughter that would have been impossible in any previous era. The trenches, the gas, the machine guns. Young men who had read Goethe and listened to Beethoven, drowning in mud, choking on chlorine. This was not barbarism regressing. This was progress weaponized. And it got worse. World War II killed 70 million. The Holocaust was not committed by savages. It was committed by one of the most educated, technologically advanced, culturally sophisticated nations on earth. Germany, the land of Kant and Hegel, of Bach and Beethoven, of Goethe and Schiller, the pinnacle of European civilization. They used trains, bureaucracy, industrial chemistry. They turned murder into an assembly line. They kept meticulous records. They were organized, efficient, progressive. This is what progress looked like when the mask slipped. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, two cities vaporized by the power of split atoms. The same science that promised to light our homes and power our futures turned to ash in an instant. The 20th century was supposed to be the century of progress. It became the century of mass death. 100 million killed in wars, genocides, famines, more than any century before. Something broke in humanity after that. Something we have never really repaired. We kept saying the words, progress, future, better. But the conviction was gone. We were performing a faith we no longer felt. After World War I, a German historian named Oswald Spengler sat down and wrote a book that would haunt the century, The Decline of the West. Spengler looked at history and saw something most people did not want to see. He saw a pattern, not a line moving upward, a cycle, a loop. His thesis was brutal in its simplicity. Civilizations are organisms. They are born, they grow, they peak, and they die. Every single one, no exceptions. This was not pessimism. It was observation. He looked at Egypt, at Babylon, at Greece, at Rome, at the Mayans, at China. Different cultures, different continents, different centuries. The same pattern repeating. Every civilization believes it is different. Every civilization believes it is the exception, and every civilization falls. Spengler mapped the life cycle. First comes spring, the mythic age. A civilization is young, religious, heroic. People believe in gods, in fate, in something larger than themselves. Art is symbolic. Life is dangerous and meaningful. There is a rawness to existence, a vitality. Homer's Greece, where heroes lived and died for glory. Early medieval Christianity, where peasants built cathedrals that took centuries to complete, knowing they would never see them finished. They built anyway, because they believed in something beyond their own lives. Then summer, the cultural peak, art flourishes, philosophy blooms, the great works emerge. Athens under Pericles, where democracy and tragedy were born in the same generation. Renaissance Florence, where Michelangelo and Leonardo walked the same streets. The civilization has enough wealth to support genius, enough stability to allow reflection. It is confident but not yet cynical. It still believes, but now it also thinks. Then autumn. The age of reason, the Enlightenment. Intellectualism replaces intuition. The great cities grow, trade expands. The old gods start to look like superstition. Science becomes the new authority. People are proud of how far they have come from the darkness of spring. They think they have outgrown the need for myth. But autumn is also when the first cracks appear. The old certainties weaken, doubt creeps in. If the old stories were false, what is true? If God was a projection, what is real? The questions multiply, the answers get thinner. And then winter. Winter is when the soul of a civilization dies, but the body keeps moving. The machinery remains, the institutions remain, but the spirit is gone. Spengler called this phase civilization as opposed to culture. The hollow shell. What does winter look like? Spirituality replaced by self-help and consumer cults. Not real religion, not real seeking, but the appearance of it. Yoga studios where no one meditates. Mindfulness apps that are just another form of optimization. The aesthetic of depth without any actual depth. Genuine community replaced by crowds of disconnected individuals in megacities. Millions of people living on top of each other. Lonelier than any peasant in a medieval village ever was. Money becoming the only measure of value. Not honor, not virtue, not beauty. Just money. Everything for sale. Everything with a price. Politics becoming spectacle. Not a genuine contest of visions, but a performance. A game. A distraction. And underneath it all, a profound exhaustion. A tiredness that no amount of coffee or entertainment can fix. The feeling that we are going through the motions of a life that no longer means what it once meant. Spengler was not describing Rome. He was describing now. Nietzsche saw this coming 100 years before it arrived. He announced the death of God in the 19th century, not as a celebration, as a warning, as a diagnosis of what was about to happen to the Western soul. When God dies, a void opens. Something has to fill it. For a while, the myth of progress filled it. The future became the new God. Work for tomorrow. Sacrifice for the next generation. Heaven is not above you anymore. It is ahead of you. But this God was hollow too. And Nietzsche knew what would happen when that story collapsed. He gave the result a name. He called it the last man. The last man is the human being who emerges when all the great myths have died. He has conquered struggle. He has solved the problem of suffering. He lives in comfort and safety. He has achieved what every previous generation dreamed of. And he is the most contemptible creature Nietzsche could imagine. His only religion is comfort. His only goal is the absence of pain. He does not want to overcome himself. He does not want truth if truth is dangerous. He does not want risk or passion or authentic struggle. We have invented happiness, he says, and then he blinks. That blink, that small, bovine, satisfied blink. The gesture of someone who has stopped reaching, stopped questioning, stopped living, really, except in the biological sense. The last man wants a good job, not a calling. A nice house, not a home. Comfortable entertainment, not art that challenges. A life free of all meaning, because meaning is uncomfortable. Meaning demands something. And the last man does not want to be demanded of. A little poison for pleasant dreams. A lot of poison for a pleasant death. He wants to be left alone to consume and sleep and die without ever having truly lived. Nietzsche wrote this in 1883, before smartphones, before streaming services, before the attention economy, before we built an entire civilization around the production and consumption of pleasant distractions. He saw us coming. He saw exactly what we would become. The last man is not a type of person. He is a gravity, a pull that everyone born in the winter feels. The hours spent on phones doing nothing, not even enjoying it, just scrolling. The mindless drift from app to app, looking for something that is never found. The shows watched not because they are enjoyed, but because silence is unbearable. The background noise required at all times. Eating, walking, lying in bed. Always something playing. Always something filling the gap. Every pause stuffed with stimulation, because pauses are uncomfortable. Waiting in line, check the phone. Elevator, check the phone. Traffic light, check the phone. the low-grade dissatisfaction that never quite becomes crisis because it is numbed just enough. Not happy, not miserable, just managed. Kept at a level where nothing has to be dealt with. This is not weakness. This is not individual failure. This is what the winter produces. This is the gravity of the age. Every app was built to capture attention and hold it. Every streaming service was designed to autoplay the next episode. Every social platform was created to keep the scroll going, the comparison running, the reaction triggering. The economy needs last men, consumers who consume without asking why, workers who work without asking what for, citizens who vote without asking what is real. The winter creates the last man. The last man deepens the winter. It is a loop, a trap, and most people are in it without knowing. So where does this leave us? If Spengler was right, if we are truly in the winter of our civilization, if history is a loop and we are just repeating the patterns that led to the fall of Rome, of Babylon, of every empire that thought it was different, then what is the point? If the future is a graveyard, if progress is a lie, if we are all just last men waiting for a pleasant death, then why do anything at all? This question sat unanswered for a long time. The diagnosis was clear. The escape was not. But Nietzsche did not give us the last man as a destination. He gave it as a warning, a portrait of what we become if we let the void swallow us, if we respond to the death of meaning by giving up on meaning entirely. He offered an alternative, not the Übermensch as it is usually understood, not a superhero, not a political savior, not a better, stronger version of the same game. Something more radical. The Übermensch is the human being who faces the same void, the same godlessness, the same cyclical meaninglessness we have been describing, and does not despair. Instead, he creates, not waiting for meaning to come from outside, not waiting for God or progress or the future to justify his existence. He becomes his own meaning. If the universe will not provide a why, he creates one. Nietzsche had a thought experiment that terrified him. He called it the eternal recurrence. A demon appears in the loneliest hour, the darkest moment. 3 a.m, when everything feels pointless. The demon whispers, "This life, exactly as you are living it now, with all its pain and joy and boredom and beauty, you will have to live again, and again, and again, infinitely. Not a different life. This one. Every mistake, made again. Every heartbreak, felt again. That embarrassing thing from years ago, done again. Forever. The same failures, the same losses, the same mundane Tuesday afternoons, the same traffic, the same bills, the same arguments. Everything. Eternally. What would you do? Collapse in despair? Beg the demon to make it stop? Or say, yes, I would live this again. Not because it was easy, not because it was painless, but because it was mine. And I made it mean something. This is the test. Not a metaphysical claim about how the universe actually works. A psychological filter. A way of measuring the relationship to existence itself. Can you love your life enough to repeat it forever? If yes, you have escaped the last man. You have found something that does not need the future to justify it. Something that is its own justification. Something that can stand alone, without hope, without progress, without the promise of something better coming. If no, then what needs to change? The question is not a condemnation. It is a compass. The parts of life that could be repeated forever, those are the parts that are real, that matter. The parts that could not be born again, those need to change, or be understood differently, or be let go. Amor fati, love of fate, Not acceptance, not resignation. Love, loving life so completely, including the suffering, including the failure, including the parts you would rather erase, that you would not change anything. Because changing anything would make you someone else, and you want to be exactly who you are. This sounds impossible. Maybe it is, fully. Maybe it is an asymptote, something approached but never reached. But even moving toward it changes things. That relationship that ended badly, that left you broken for months. Amor fati means looking at that and saying, I would not erase it, because it made me who I am, because the breaking taught me something I could not have learned any other way. That failure, the project that collapsed, the business that did not work, the dream that died. Amor fati means not just accepting it, but embracing it. This was necessary. This was part of the path. I would choose it again. That loss, the person who died, the thing that will never come back. Amor fati means loving even the grief, because the grief is the proof of love, and the love was worth the grief. We are trained to optimize, to minimize pain, to maximize pleasure, to regret mistakes and wish we could undo them. Amor fati says, stop. Stop wishing for a different life. This is your life. These are your failures. This is your pain, and it is yours, and you can love it, not despite the darkness, but including it. When this lands, even for a moment, the anxiety loosens. The need for the future to provide salvation dissolves. There is no more waiting, no more postponing. This messy, painful, beautiful, ordinary moment is the only thing that was ever promised. You can waste it waiting for something better, or you can make it worthy of eternity. But this is not free. There is a cost to waking up, a cost to leaving the last man behind. Comfort is easier. Numbing is easier. There is a reason most people choose it. There is a reason the gravity is so strong. To actually live this way, to face the void without flinching, to create meaning when meaning is not given, it is exhausting, it is lonely, it sets you apart. People who are comfortable in the last man life will not understand. They will think you are taking things too seriously. They will wonder why you cannot just relax and enjoy the entertainment like everyone else. Some relationships will not survive it, not because of superiority, but because of different games being played. And not everyone wants to play this game. The Übermensch is not a path to happiness. It is not a life hack. It is a path to meaning, and meaning often hurts. Every choice is a loss. Choosing to wake up means losing the comfort of sleep. Choosing intensity means losing the ease of numbness. Choosing to matter means losing the safety of not caring. You have to want it more than you want comfort. And some days, you will not. The Romans had a practice worth remembering. When a general returned victorious from war, he would ride through the streets in a grand triumph. The crowds cheering, the glory at its peak. Everything he had worked for, fought for, risked his life for, was being celebrated. But behind him in the chariot stood a slave, and the slave had one job, to whisper in the general's ear over and over, Memento mori. Remember, you will die, not tomorrow, not in some abstract future. You will die. This was not cruelty. It was medicine. The antidote to the delusion that victory was permanent, that glory was forever, that the future would extend infinitely. The Romans understood something we have forgotten. Death is not the enemy of meaning. It is the source of it. Death makes you choose. You cannot do everything. You cannot be everything. You cannot live forever. So what are you going to do with the time you have? Without death, there is no urgency. Without an ending, there is no story. Without the awareness that this will end, there is no reason to pay attention to it while it is happening. The last man does not think about death. He is too comfortable. He has numbed himself enough that the thought rarely intrudes. And when it does, he pushes it away. Watches something, scrolls something, buys something, anything to avoid the whisper. But the whisper is the gift. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. Everything you are building will eventually fall. Every empire ends. Every body fails. Every story stops. Every person you love will either leave you or watch you leave them. The last man hears this and is paralyzed. If death comes for everything, why bother? But there is another response. If death comes for everything, then the future cannot save you. You are never going to escape. The graveyard was always the destination. And if that is true, then you are free. Free from the tyranny of tomorrow. Free from sacrificing your life for a future that will also die. Free from the endless postponement. Free from the myth that told you to wait. The only moment you were ever promised is this one. You can spend it waiting for something better, or you can make it worthy of being all you got. The future is a graveyard. This is not pessimism, it is clarity. The myth of progress was always a lie we told ourselves, because the truth was too heavy. The loop is real. Civilizations rise and fall. The winter comes for everyone eventually. There is no escape through technology, through politics, through any collective project. But inside the loop, inside the winter, inside the graveyard, there is something the cycle cannot touch. The quality of your attention, the depth of your love, the authenticity of your struggle, the art you make, the relationships you build, the moments you actually inhabit instead of sleepwalk through. The last man sees the graveyard and gives up. If nothing lasts, nothing matters. But there is another way to see it. If nothing lasts, then only this moment matters. And if only this moment matters, then this moment becomes everything. Nietzsche spent the last decade of his life insane. His mind collapsed in 1889. He saw a horse being beaten in the streets of Turin, threw his arms around its neck to protect it, and something broke that never healed. The next 10 years, he was a ghost, unable to write, unable to think. The man who had thought deeper than almost anyone, reduced to a shell that his sister paraded around for visitors. They would come to look at him, this famous philosopher, sitting in a chair, staring at nothing. He never saw his ideas understood. In his sane years, almost no one read him. His books sold a few hundred copies. He sent them to thinkers he admired and received polite rejections or silence in return. He died in obscurity, unknown, his work collecting dust. Everything he predicted came true. The last man emerged. The death of God hollowed out civilization. The wars came, the nihilism spread. He saw all of it coming, described it with terrifying accuracy, and was ignored. His body was a prison. Migraines that lasted days, stomach problems that made eating agony, near blindness that made reading and writing torture. He wrote his greatest works in constant physical pain, barely able to see the page, suffering and loneliness. That was his life. And yet, in his final productive year, he wrote about the Übermensch, about eternal recurrence, about Amor fati. He wrote about loving life so completely that you would will it to return forever. Did he love his life? With all its failure, all its madness, all its pain? Could he have said yes to the demon? Could he have chosen to repeat all of it infinitely? No one can know, but he tried. He stared into the void that was coming for all of us and refused to look away, refused to numb himself, refused to become a last man. He lived awake, painfully, unbearably awake, and then he lost his mind. And then he died, just like we will. The only question is whether we will live awake first. The graveyard is coming. It was always coming. But the path there is ours to walk. We can sleepwalk it, scroll through it, numb ourselves until it ends. Or we can walk it with eyes open, making each step mean something, creating beauty in the shadow of the tomb. That is the choice. Not between hope and despair, not between progress and collapse, between sleeping through life and being present for it, between the last man and whatever we might become if we refuse to be him. The future will not save you, but you might still save yourself, not for eternity, just for now. And now is all you ever had.